Sounds good.
Hello, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us today for this webinar on the state of solar in Illinois. So my name is Josh Clark, and I am a territory sales manager working in both Iowa and Illinois for Simpleray. And I'd like to introduce Lewis Butler here for you. Lewis can tell you a little bit about himself, and he'll be providing most of the information for everyone today.
Hey there, everybody. Thanks for connecting with me today, Josh. I'm the Director of Sales here at Simpleray. I'm also an Illinois Solar Energy Association board member, so I try to keep up on policy as much as I can in Illinois and a couple of other states.
All right, thanks a lot, Lewis. To start with, why don't we talk a little bit about the history of the Adjustable Block Program, or the ABP as it's commonly referred to for Illinois?
Yeah, so the Adjustable Block Program was made possible by the Future Energy Jobs Act in Illinois. And what it did is it laid out a way for customers to get paid to install solar on the grid. So whether you were on a REC or a co-op or one of the major investor-owned utility companies, you could get paid. And on the C&I side, the commercial and industrial side that we work on, or in the ag space, you get those renewable energy credit payments in the first 5 years. So it's really front-loaded to pay people out. And when the program first kicked off, it was so popular, and the layout took so long that there's actually a wait list, and they had like a lottery to decide who was going to get what level of incentives. And then the program kind of evened out for a little bit. And then this spring, the program ran out of its current funding, and they created a wait list for any project that did not get funded. So we've had projects come and go off of that wait list, and I think I have a slide on that here in a second. And as we head into the fall veto session and the spring session next spring, we're optimistic that the program will get funded again. Although we have no real assurances right now, there does seem to be an appetite in Springfield to keep funding that program.
All right. Thanks a lot for the background, Lewis. So can you talk a little bit about how the waitlist works and maybe our experience with projects on that waitlist?
Yeah, the waitlist is a first come, first served type of program here. And to get on the wait list or submit any project to the Adjustable Block Program, one of the major things that we need to do is to submit an interconnection agreement. So if we had a customer who signed up today, what we would do is we'd immediately go back to the engineering team. Josh and I would say, thumbs up, sales team did their job. We need an interconnection application. So we fill out the paperwork for ComEd or Ameren or whoever it is, and then we go back and forth and we get that interconnection agreement approved. And then we send that off to the program administrator for the Adjustable Block Program. And that gets us a spot in line. And then every single morning, what someone internally does is we check to see where we're on that wait list. And if projects in the past that had been funded decided not to move forward, one of our projects might move up off of that wait list. And then if we have an approved interconnection, we'll get put at the bottom of that wait list. And so what you're seeing on this graph here is Group A is projects in Ameren territory, and Group B is projects in ComEd territory. So you'll see, since a little bit before April 1st there, projects will get added, projects will drop off, projects will get added, projects will drop off. So the wait list has been growing a little bit more steadily in ComEd territory, and you can see a real big spike around September 1st, but that line is still going up little by little. And by comparison, there's not as big of a wait list currently in Ameren. So sometimes the Ameren wait list is larger, sometimes the ComEd wait list is larger. And we anticipate when more funding does become available, if it becomes available, these projects will be first in line for that funding.
And I think it's important for us to mention here, Lewis, that this waitlist has not just been, I guess a never-ending project queue. We and other installers have had projects pulled off of this waitlist to get approved to install since the waitlist has started. So we have no reason to think that going on the waitlist just means your project goes to sit and die.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. This graph isn't, even though the amounts are going up, it's not a static picture. On the same day that 3 or 4 projects move off the wait list and get funded, 5 more projects may take their place. So there's a constant churn of projects that is going on here.
Perfect. So for somebody who does want to go ahead with the project, get on that wait list, how do they go forward with making sure that they can get the current value of that 26% federal tax credit? Now, there is a way through what we call, and the IRS calls, safe harbor. Is that correct?
Yeah. So customers in Illinois in the commercial and the ag space right now are really in an interesting position. The first thing that we recommend that people do is do the really simple stuff, right? Get a proposal from us, look at the numbers, and then we're asking for a very minimal down payment to go out and file the interconnection paperwork and get on that wait list. And then once we're on the wait list, then there's an additional decision point that we have, and that's what you're referring to with that safe harbor. The current investment tax credit stands at 26% of the project cost. Starting January 1st, that's going to go down to 22%. As long as you spend at least 5% or more in 2020, you lock in that 26% federal tax credit. And we can spend that money on anything that we can inventory. So inverters, racking, modules. So our goal is to inventory components that you can use on a variety of projects. So, worst case scenario is we get you on the wait list. It doesn't look like funding is going to come around fast enough in 2021. We can reallocate those materials to another project and refund most of that money. So, just to summarize this again, we think it's pretty minimal cost to get on the wait list. We can wait and see what happens with legislation between now and the end of the year, or look at next spring. And if customers want to safe harbor and lock in that tax credit before the end of the year, we have a really good mechanism to do that, which in the long run is relatively low risk if we can allocate those materials to a different project.
Great. So there is a very real benefit to signing a contract today, even if the project is fully intended to be built in 2021.
Yep. You can safe harbor, do all the paperwork, get everything ready, and then we can look at when is the best time to install next year. Spring, summer, I think those are great times to install, but we have some customers who they're busy in the spring and summer and they want a fall install, and we can do we can just basically strategize with between the sales team and the ops team. When do we submit these applications? How long are they good for? How do we maximize these incentives and work around our customers' schedules?
All right. So now that we have a pretty good grasp on where we're at today, what can you tell everybody about, what we believe the future holds?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting question, and I really encourage people to ask questions in the side chat there, or flag things for me, or give Josh a call. But one of the things that the Future Energy Jobs Act put into effect is once renewables reach a certain percentage of penetration on the investor-owned utilities, they get to change their net metering programs. So in the commercial and industrial space, as we sit here today, there's nothing that's going to impact our current customers. However, Ameren is saying that they've hit 5% penetration on their grid. So they're going to take away what we call net metering for their residential customers, meaning they are no longer going to give a one-to-one credit for the energy produced from those arrays. Our concern, or the thing that we're looking at long term, is because this has been triggered, they're going to look at how to value solar on the grid. And when they go back and they refigure out the value of that solar, they're probably going to change the smart inverter rebate, which is a separate program from the adjustable block program. So what does that all really mean to everybody that's out there? That means that the adjustable block program incentive will probably never be as high as we project it's going to be in the next round of funding. The smart inverter rebate can only go down in the future, we think, and the tax credit is currently slated to keep going down. So that's when we're out talking to people today about safe harbor strategy and all these things, we really think that this is a good confluence of incentives to really think deeply about trying to lock them in now while they can.
And Lewis, do you think it's fair to say that any short-term future decrease in hardware, soft costs or installation costs would probably not keep up with the decline in incentives? So from a value standpoint, that this is probably, as good as we should expect to see over the short term?
Yeah, I think that's a very difficult question to answer because we get caught on both sides of this, right? So on one hand, we think maybe the cost of some components might decrease marginally in the future. It's also just as likely, depending on the component, that's going to increase in the future. Sometimes, some years, the module tariffs are going down, but the steel tariffs are going up, or vice versa. And so it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen in the future. But if you think about the value of that 4% federal tax credit, and you think about the adjustable block program historically dropping 4% every year, you'd have to see some pretty dramatic movement in the equipment side of things to outpace the decrease in incentives, in my opinion. And hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense.
Lewis, I think we've hit on all of the main points of where this program started in the past, where we currently are, and what we are seeing as the future. Are there any other final points you want to make sure we go over before we wrap up?
I think the big thing to me is things are constantly changing. So Ameren and this net metering tariff, there's news coming out about that daily where it's going to be put into action, and then it's going to be rescinded, and then Ameren's going to file a different tariff, or a tariff is going to change. And so anything that you and I record today could look differently a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. And so I think it's really important to really ask all these questions, see where things, what the lay of the land is, so to speak, and make a good decision going forward and what that is. And really, what I see our goal is doing as sales consultants, Josh, is trying to lay out that future as best as we can and make responsible decisions for our customers. And then sometimes, and you know this as well as I, is that means we're not going to build a project until 2022, or we're going to delay it until Q4 of next year. And so it's really just making sure we provide all the information we can and, put our thumb on the scale, so to speak, of what we think is actually going to happen.
Yep, I think that's very well said, Lewis. I appreciate you getting on the webinar with me today and answering some of these questions. I know they're certainly on people's mind right now with some of the news that's coming out regarding solar energy in Illinois. So I appreciate all the information. Thanks everybody for joining the webinar. If there are any additional questions that have come through the chat, we can do our best to field those now before we wrap up.
Yeah, I'd say if not, reach out to us. Hello at Simpleray.com. I'm Lewis Butler at Simpleray.com. You're Josh Clark at Simpleray.com. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Bye.